Welcome to downtown Helena. We're discussing Jewish supremacism today. Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Little. I'm running for public office. I was wondering if you had a moment.
Sure.
Are you 18 or above eligible to vote in Montana? Oh, well, my name is Patrick Little. I'll be running in 2020. I had a few questions. So, do you think that there should be fairness in academic admissions?
Yes.
Okay, if I were to tell you there was an ethnic group that makes up 1.7% of the United States population, what do you think the most they could be in terms of the graduate student percentage, the student body at Harvard? If they were overrepresented, yes, 1.7% of the population is an ethnic group, you think maybe they might get to 3-4% of the student body at Harvard grad school? It's a stretch, right?
Yeah.
Pretty overrepresented. What if I were to tell you this ethnic group isn't 10%? What if I were to tell you this ethnic group were 20%? Do you think they're higher or lower than that in terms of their percentage? So Harvard grad school, out of a possible 100% of the student body, what percentage do you think this minority that is 1.7% of the population, what percentage do you think they make up Harvard grad school? Do you think it's higher or lower than 20%? Higher. Do you think it's higher or lower than 40%? Higher. Do you think it's higher or lower than 60%?
Lower.
Higher. Do you think it's higher or lower than 75%?
Lower.
Yeah, it is lower. It's 67%. Now, they are a pretty smart group. They make up about 2.2, 2.3% of the top performing high school students in the country, depending on what studies you look at. For 1.7% of the population, they are a little bit above average in terms of how they score, because they're all, over 2% of the top performing high school students. Care to guess what ethnic group this is?
African American.
Nope. They're actually grossly underrepresented in most Ivy Leagues. Keep going. We're talking about gross overrepresentation based on merit. Okay, let's go by letters of the alphabet. So A being the first and Z being the last. Go ahead and guess just a letter of the alphabet.
K.
Okay, that's right in the middle. It is lower than K. Just a little lower than
I.
K. It's one higher than that. It starts with a...
J.
Care to complete the word? The ethnic group that is 1.7% of the U.S. population, about 2% of top performing high school students, but 67% of the Harvard graduate school student body. It begins with a J.
Jewish.
That's correct, Jews. Did we learn something today?
Yes.
Now,
Did you know that Jews are an ethnic group, not just a religion?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good. Most people don't.
So I was born Catholic. I've got an Irish, English, Welsh background. Throw in some other stuff, a dash of Southern European. I'm an Amerimut, right? Let's say I converted to Judaism. I became an Orthodox Jew in my beliefs. Do you think I'd be allowed to move to Israel?
I'm sure you would be allowed. You might not be accepted.
Would not be allowed. You have to pass a DNA test to move to Israel. Interesting stuff, right? So they only allow people that are genetically similar to them to move to their country. They overrepresent it by several thousand% compared to all other ethnic groups in this country at elite universities. By the way, Columbia, Yale, Stanford, all these universities, similar overrepresentation. Now they're 1.7% of the population. Can you guess what percentage of the Supreme Court of the United States they are? There are 9 Supreme Court justices.
30.
A little bit higher than that, 33%. They're 1/3 of the Supreme Court of the United States. Pretty interesting. You know some of the things that the Supreme Court has passed since the 1980s? I'm going to be a little specific. Do you know which religion it is forbidden to show the symbol of on public land? So let's say I went in front of your town hall and I put up a cross saying I was Catholic. Am I allowed to do that? Or an nativity scene of baby Jesus? Am I allowed to do that? Nope, Supreme Court says that's not allowed. You cannot put up Christian symbols or nativity scenes or babies or anything like that in front of public property. Now, guess what is about 250, 300 feet tall and gets put in front of the White House every year since the mid-1980s during Christmas time? It's a religious symbol. It's a menorah every
Smart.
year. So Today's topic of the conversation, I'm running for president in 2020, is Jewish supremacy. Can you guess what the biggest lobby in this country is in terms of dollars donated? Yep, it has something to do with that letter of the alphabet we were guessing before. AIPAC, the Jewish lobby. Biggest lobby in the country. Another question. So, how old were you when the Iraq War started? Do you remember the news? All the news channels said Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. Saddam Hussein's got nuclear weapons programs, all this happy stuff. Well, those were intelligence reports coming from a certain country, later proven to be falsified, fake intelligence. Can you guess what country that came from? We can play the letter game. That is correct. They were reports by the Mossad. Do you know that's the intelligence agency of Israel? They falsified them knowingly, and this has been admitted by the U.S. and the UK State Departments. Well, they call theirs they don't call it a State Department, but the same office. Can you guess what the motto of the Mossad is, the intelligence agency of Israel? By deception we wage war. Pretty crazy slogan, right? Our greatest ally, they say that their intelligence agency's main purpose is to deceive. Pretty crazy, right? So we offered to pay $11 million to anyone that could show evidence of weapons of mass destruction programs that were in place prior to our invasion of Iraq in the early 2000s. Iraqis were starving to death. Millions had died of starvation as a result of the embargoes, different blockades we had placed on trade with Iraq, and then also died of collateral damage during the invasion. So you can imagine an $11 million reward. A lot of Iraqis would be trying to recover this, right? Like if you offer, hey, show me evidence of a nuclear weapons program, biological weapons program, chemical weapons program. Show me any evidence. U.S. government gives you $11 million. I think a lot of Iraqis would be lined up at the door trying to collect that $11 million, right? Well, they were starving to death, so yeah, lots of people went out into the desert with shovels. You know how many found that prize that would have gotten them $11 million? Evidence of the weapons of mass destruction, the justification for the invasion of Iraq. 0, because it was fake Israeli intelligence. Now, can you remember a single news station that was against going into Iraq? I was in college at the time, so it's a little fresher in my mind. Snapped by Jesus. Maybe Fox News? Might want to guess Fox News? Pretty conservative, right? Yep. Murdoch's or Orthodox News. Maybe CNN News, they're pretty liberal, right? Nope, CNN's owned by Zucker. Zionist Jew once again. Well, what about the New York Times? Maybe they aren't Jewish, right? Nope. Sulzberger family, Zionist Jews. So I challenge you to name a single news station that's nationally available that isn't run by Jews, and I ask you, what type of power would control over the news cycle give you if you were trying to justify wars on behalf of foreign countries? My other question is, have you ever heard of the Yamanan plan, the Yadanan plan, the 1979 plan for the Great Israel Project? What was it? Chad, what was the name of it? One syllable word and then a 2-syllable word. From 1979, written in Israel, it listed all of the countries that were to be toppled, neighbors of Israel and regional competitors. On that list were Syria, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Libya. Pretty much every place we've invaded or where the news has been saying we need to invade and attack.
Was it the Koenig Memorandum? Koenig?
I can't remember.
Koenig?
It was PNAC later came out of it in the 90s, but the original plan was like the Yamanan plan or something like that.
Okay.
Or something. Anyhow, General Wesley Clark said in the early 2000s, I saw a paper come across my desk at the Pentagon in the 1980s, and there was a list of every country that needed to be regime changed. And every country we're invading or attacking, or the news is saying to attack, we have. And he said the paper came from Israel. Can you guess what the largest ethnicity is for campaign contributions to the Democrat Party, including Clinton? The top 5 donors. What ethnicity were they for Clinton?
Jewish.
That's correct. Can you guess the top 3 donors for Trump? What ethnicity were they? Also Jewish. Interesting. So there was a gentleman that pointed out Jewish control in our country, the news cycle, and of our foreign policy. His name was, what was his name? James Trafficant. Jim Trafficant. Call him Jim.
I was gonna say Bobby Fischer.
Well, no, he wound up dead in Iceland. But no, Jim Trafficant. He was what, from Kentucky, Tennessee?
Over there somewhere.
I forgot which one. Chat, let me know which one, because I forget right now. Anyhow, so after he said the things that I'm saying, guess what happened to his congressional seat? Gone. You know what happened to him for 5 years? They sent him to jail. No real charge. Guess what happened right after he got out of jail? They found him dead under his lawnmower. Damn thing just rolled over and killed him. Interesting stuff, right? Now, President Kennedy wasn't too happy about the fact that Israel was proven to steal 400 to 600 pounds of weapons-grade uranium from the NUMEC facility in southern Pennsylvania. No, I'm sorry. Was it western Pennsylvania? Eastern Pennsylvania. The NUMEC facility. Guys, look up what city NUMEC was outside of, please. Feed it to me in the chat. Guess what happened to him when he directed the FBI and the CIA to investigate Israel's theft of 400 to 600 pounds of weapons-grade uranium? A few months after he ordered the investigation, what happened to him? John F. Kennedy. Got a big old bullet in the head. Now, that's funny because his assassin was assassinated right away. Can you guess? Do you know who killed his assassin?
Killed his assassin?
Immediately after he was taken into custody. The news reported his last name is Ruby. Ruby. Everywhere the Jewish news said Mr. Ruby killed him. Can you guess what his real last name was? No one called him Ruby before the news made it up. Rubenstein, he was a Jew. And the man who he killed was one of his best buddies, who was married to Jews and spent a lot of time training as a sniper in the Soviet Union, which was controlled by Jews. Interesting stuff. Now, the Soviet Union, flashback to 1920s, 1930s. There was an ethnic group that made up 1% of the population of the Soviet Union. And you want to guess what percentage of the government top posts that this ethnic group made up in the Soviet Union? You want to guess? 1% of the population, probably 1% of the government, right?
7.
Higher.
88.
88, that's a good guess. 88's a great guess, but a little bit lower than that. It's 85%. 88% was a great guess, though. So 85%. Wow. So they're 1% of the population of the Soviet Union. They're 85% of the government of the USSR, the commissars, the equivalent of senators and congressmen. Do you want to guess what type of laws they passed during that time in the 1920s and 30s? They were the first country in the world to outlaw criticism of Jews. It was punishable by... What do you think the punishment for the criticism of Jews was? He's giving you a hint. It starts with a D. Death. Woo! Crazy.
Straight to the gulag.
Yeah. Now, here, another question, very similar to your last one. What percentage of the people that ran the gulags or the death camps in the Soviet Union in the 1920s and 1930s were ethnically Jewish?
I don't know.
Also 85%. 88 would have been a good guess for this case, too. You know where I got this information?
Where?
The Jewish World Encyclopedia. Go to any synagogue, look for their 1950s, 1960s editions of the Jewish World Encyclopedia. A lot of the synagogues, Jewish community centers here have them. You'll find this exact same information. I'm quoting Jews here. Crazy. So the man who led the Red Army to kill the Tsar and his family and every priest in Russia, they killed 30 million people by 1930-something. So in less than 20 years, they killed 30 million people. Can you guess what the name of the leader of the Red Army was? You remember? Begins with a T. Trotsky, right? You heard of Trotsky? It's a nice Russian-sounding name, right? Well, he was a name changer. He was from New York, and his real name was Bronstein. Pretty cool, huh? Now, changing names isn't just something that Jews did in the Soviet Union to hide the fact that they were in control. They also do it in Hollywood. Almost every major director, producer, studio executive, studio owner in Hollywood is, you want to guess what ethnicity? Bam. Now, I got this one from the leader of the Nation of Islam. His name is Minister Farrakhan. You heard of him? Farrakhan.
Louis Farrakhan?
Louis Farrakhan?
Okay.
Obama talked about him a few times. Okay. So according to him, and also according to the Jewish World Encyclopedia and the U.S. Census, What percentage of Jews in this country owned African slaves before the Civil War in this country? 88 is a great percentage, however, it was 40%. Now, do you know what percentage of non-Jewish whites, so European-blooded Americans, owned slaves in this country before the Civil War? Less than 40, I'll give you that hint.
20.
No, lower than that.
12.
Lower.
6.
Lower. This is according to the U.S. Census. Lower.
2.
Lower.
Less than 1%.
Yep, 0.8%. For those of you in Europe watching this, if the Jews haven't blocked it there, 0.8%, because you write all funny with your metric system. So, pretty crazy, right? I saw Steven Spielberg's Amistad. You know what ethnicity Steven Spielberg is, right? Correct? Big time producer director. He's a Jew. So you watch Amistad, which is like the iconic movie about slavery, and all over the ships, all over the slave markets, everywhere you got white-looking guys with blonde hair, blue eyes, maybe red beards, and big Christian crosses, right? Well, Jews were 50 times more likely to own slaves than whites in this country, but it gets even worse than that. When it gets to the actual slave trade, the triangular slave trade, guess who owned almost all the big ships that had the slaves on them? Starts with a J. Yes, Jews. Guess who controlled the slave trade? The largest African slave trade in the world, which was the largest African slave market in the world, was in Brazil. Give you a guess. Last name was Lopez at the time, right? You want to guess what ethnicity he really was? This is according to the Jewish World Encyclopedia. Yeah, he was a Jew too. So the Jews controlled the slave trade in the United States, the former colonies before that, South America, Central America. Also, according to the Roman historian Tacitus in 200 AD or abouts, even back then, all of the slave markets in the Roman Empire, almost all of them were controlled by, do you want to guess who the Roman historian Tacitus, almost 2,000 years ago, credits with ownership of almost every slave market in the Roman Empire? You want to guess? Almost 2,000 years ago. Gotta be a different ethnicity. Can't be the same guys, can it? Is it Jews? Yes, it's Jews. The Roman historian Tacitus, the most famous pre-Renaissance historian in all the world, more famous than any of the Greeks, credits the chosen, those Jews, with being the masters of the slave trade. Now, it gets a little interesting. So, in the Ottoman Empire, right? That's like Muslim, right? Back in the day, right? You think that it would be Turks or Ottomans that controlled the slave trade in the Ottoman Empire, right? No, that was Jews too. What about in Arabia? The African slave trade in Arabia. So we're talking about black Africans being traded in Arabia. Guess who brought them in there and ran the markets and castrated them, custom delivered? Gonna give you a guess. Arabia, thinking it's maybe Arabs, right? Nope, still Jews. The legacy of slavery is Jewish. Almost no whites as a percentage of the population participated in the slave trade, but almost half of Jews did. And they controlled the slave market everywhere in the Western world.
What do you think about all this information? Like, is this stuff that you've heard before, or is this stuff that do you believe it? Do you believe what he's telling you?
I'm just wondering if he has anything else to his platform other than Jewish.
Well, what's an issue that concerns you, maybe? Is there something that's near and dear to your heart in terms of what you'd like to see done in government past 2020? So if I got in, I'd assume office January, mid-January, or late January 2021. What would you like to see out of me if I got in? What type of policies?
What issue is important to you?
I don't know. There are plenty of issues that are important to me.
But like, what are the main ones that you have feel strongly about?
Me off the sidewalk because I'm obviously not Jewish.
No, you were just the first person that walked by.
We saw a beautiful woman.
And we know that all the thirsty guys.
Your looks were a large part of the decision because normal people are likely to watch a video with a pretty woman on camera. I'm very proud. So what's an issue that's important to you?
Tribal sovereignty.
Tribal sovereignty. Okay. So autonomy of peoples, right? Of people being able to decide their own destiny, right?
Specifically Native American.
Okay.
What about treaties?
Treaties with?
Treaties are the supreme law.
Between sovereign Indian nations and the United States government, right?
Yes.
Oh, are you descendant of Native Americans?
I'm I'm not a descendant. I am a Native American.
Oh, that's
And
right.
actually, I don't call myself a Native American because I'm not native to America.
I don't understand.
You came here and turned it into America. This is my ancestral homeland.
Oh, which tribe are you from?
Oh, I'm a Dakota person.
Dakota.
So,
Oh, cool.
Yes. So I'm from the Osheta tribe, the 7 tribes of the Sioux Nation.
This is my first time in Minnesota. I'm sorry, we'll be in Minnesota later. My apologies.
Well, we actually originate from the Minnesota area.
Oh, well, that makes sense. It's kind of over in the Dakota direction. Well, so it's pretty interesting to notice that slavery was historically Jewish, right? Now, I don't know how Jews pertain to relations between the United States government and
I do,
sovereign Indian nations.
because the government is a Zionist-occupied government, and so whatever treaties our government's been breaking with the native people aren't treaties between us, they're treaties between the Zog and the native people.
Well, it is true that we are a colony of Israel right now in terms
So
of our government.
do we not take accountability for the things that the U.S. government signs?
We, who?
We, as in the U.S. government, do we not take accountability for the things we sign because we're corrupt?
It's a very corrupt government, and I agree we need someone like Grover Cleveland. He was a Democrat. I'm running as a Democrat, by the way. He cleaned up Tammany Hall, which in New York there was Jewish corruption. Politicians that wanted to get things done couldn't get anything done because the Jewish oligarchs in New York City wouldn't let anything get done unless their bosses got paid out, including the control of the unions at the time, which I'm pro-union, but I don't like mobster control of the union. He cleaned out the corruption real good, and he's the only president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. One of my favorite presidents, but I know very little about tribal sovereignty issues in this country. I've mostly been out in the West Coast and the Northeast.
Most places in the country, it's not on the forefront because there's not a large population of natives. So like,
Nobody cares about natives, that's why it's an issue. What about missing murdered indigenous women? Because they don't keep track of that. They do keep track of every other ethnic group, but not
isn't
Native
it a
American.
sovereign nation? So they
Oh, hold on. Actually, human
Oh, but
trafficking.
we're federally mandated, so we're not actually sovereign. That's just a
Oh,
nice
really?
term that they've given us.
So the interesting thing here is that I'm a big activist in terms of human trafficking. Hugely against it, obviously. Can you guess where the human trafficking hub in the world is right now? Mostly Slavic women. So I'm sorry they're not keeping track of tribal women. But for in terms of the human trafficking hub of the world, where prostitutes that are involuntarily pressed into service are gang raped until they submit and administered opioids until they submit. Can you guess where this is? The country and the city. So I'll give you a hint. The city is Tel Aviv. Do you know what country that is? Israel. It's the human trafficking capital of the world, primarily for forced prostitution.
Are you saying that all of our problems stem from Israel and the Jews?
Almost entirely, yes.
Okay.
Now, is there something I could read or look up to understand tribal issues? Because I think that tribal people, or most people would understand Native Americans, if you're watching, you're referring to people of the tribes that were here when Europeans arrived. Is there something I could look up so I could get savvy on the issue? I bet I could figure out how the Jews are involved if you give me a book to read.
I gave you a book to read.
What kind of books? What
Well, not-
are books that are good informational sources for us to do research on the topic that you feel strongly about? Because we want to know what people are feeling strongly about, and we want to, get our finger on the pulse of what people are feeling and try and help them.
So
because
far
right now our government doesn't do
So
that.
far, I've only run in California, and other than the inland empires, like Palm Springs, there aren't too many sovereign areas for Native Americans or tribal people. So I'm not too savvy on the issue.
Well, I was just wondering because by 2020 we might not have any sovereign nations.
What's that?
Oh, because that's on Trump's list of things to do. Obliterate reservations so that
I haven't heard
you
that.
have access to our natural resources.
You know, that's funny because I disagree with Trump on what's happening to the indigenous people of Palestine. Trump's making a mistake there. Would you agree that the Israelis are committing genocide against the indigenous peoples of Palestine? Okay. Can you name anything that Israel has wanted that Trump hasn't given them? By the way, the Israelis have been asking for the capital moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem since the 1967 war. He gave it to them. So is there an issue he hasn't given them?
I don't know. I don't follow Trump too closely.
Well, he's the president. I'm running for that office, so I've been watching him pretty closely. And I've decided that he ran on an America First platform, but he's actually carrying out an Israeli First platform, which unfortunately most of the people around here think that Israel's our best friend. But were you aware that currently, can we pull up some pictures on, can I see the phone there, the red one from your pocket? I'm sure some pictures of what's being done to the indigenous peoples of Palestine right now. And while it's not your kin, it is still something similar, native people being exterminated purposely.
Are you talking about things like Aleppo and stuff? Because where Palestine?
Aleppo's in Syria.
That was actually a false flag operation by Israeli intelligence-sponsored ISIS. And by the way, I can show you the proof that Israel supports ISIS financially, with weapons, and with hospital care.
Where's your proof and what makes it credible?
Oh, very good. How's the Israeli parliament saying for you? So, can we please get a link in the chat
How do
to
you
the head
choose
of...
who to trust?
Because it's a session of Israeli parliament with what they're saying there for everyone to hear. It's not like dubbed over. It's literally what they're saying.
Right. It's their documentation.
Yeah.
What they're saying in their documentation. So if like.
Documents can be falsified.
Right. I know, but and I agree with you because I'm totally, I'm on the level with you about that, about people putting stuff out and it not being real or it being falsified. But I mean, if somebody puts out a document like we are doing this, then why wouldn't we believe them, take them at their word if it's the official sanctioned government body?
Yeah, it's called the Knesset, it's their parliament.
So I see that you took my issue and turned it back into a Jewish issue.
I made it into an issue about oppression of indigenous peoples, which is, I took something that you were talking about and conceptually something similar and something I know about. I admitted ignorance on the Native American.
Right. That's why we asked you for a book, because we want to read, we want to know.
Well, most people are ignorant, that's why I asked.
Right.
I wanted to understand the black civil rights advocate perspective, and somebody recommended stuff from Farrakhan, so I read it. He quotes Malcolm X a lot and stuff. I quote Malcolm X too. So if you give me some material, I'll use it and I'll see where our similarities are. I tell you what, I'll give you an email where I can provide all this information. Do you have a pen and paper, ma'am?
Not on hand.
You want to take a picture of my screen with my information on it?
I don't have my phone.
Oh.
It's on.
Oh, can you remember an email address?
Maybe. What is it?
It's easy.
Pat@littlerevolution.us.
Pat@littlerevolution.us.
Yeah, instead of
Little Revolution.
.us, my last name's Little Revolution, Pat@littlerevolution.us. So the facts we'll be providing to this young tribal woman, is that proper terminology?
Sure.
Okay. Is ISIS, the speech that was given by the head of the IDF to the Knesset, or the Israeli parliament, where they're talking about the need to continue supporting ISIS financially and militarily. The head of the Mossad talking about the need for continued support of ISIS and the need to draw America into supporting ISIS, which we eventually did. Well, not we, but our Zionist-occupied government. And also, one of the top people in the IDF, one of the generals talking with a US or UK news reporter about why Israel's treating ISIS as wounded and getting them back into the fight as quickly as possible. Also asked me for evidence of Israeli involvement in the apparent nerve agent attacks that were staged in Syria. Now, false flag operations are something that Israel does a lot. In 1967, they carried out a false flag attack on the USS Liberty where over 200 crew were casualties. So 2/3 of the crew were casualties. They used napalm torpedoes, machine guns, the life rafts against the Geneva Convention. They claimed that they thought we were an Egyptian ship. However, as I did when I was running for Senate in California, I provided a robocall with the recording of the Israeli pilot, which was a Lebanese intercept, and an Egyptian intercept, showing that they knew it was an American ship. They confirmed in the control tower that in Hebrew, yes, it was an American ship. They jammed all of the radio communications so that they couldn't get word out to the nearby U.S. Sixth Fleet. They could have intercepted the Israeli terrorist fighters. Jammed all the radios, tried to sink the ships, sent in torpedo boats when the planes couldn't get it done themselves. In 1950s, they did the New Mexico facility incident where they stole the nuclear fissile materials, the weapons-grade nuclear uranium, that they later made their illegal rogue state nuclear weapons program with. They've had nuclear weapons since 1978 with illegal, stolen U.S. uranium, strategic nuclear 1950s, they also did the Lavon affair, where they planted for Israeli Jews and planted improvised explosive devices in suitcases on American military bases in Egypt. They were dressed up as Arabs, trying to frame Arabs, trying to get the U.S. to attack Egypt so that Israel could gain control of the Suez Canal. Pretty crazy, right? The only thing is the Pentagon officially recognizes these as Israeli terrorist attacks. Well, they don't use the word terrorist, but they admit that Israel did it. But they say it was on accident, but I have the proof it wasn't on accident. What's my email address?
Pat at littlerevolution.us.
At littlerevolution.us. I also will provide you pictures of the shirts that Israeli Jewish snipers wear. On the front is a picture of a native woman, Palestinian woman, with a pregnant womb, with a picture of a target sight of a sniper scope over her womb. In Hebrew it says left to right, 1 shot, 2 kills. And then there's another one that Israeli snipers wear around town, when they're out.
Well, there's one with a little kid and has a target over it, and it says the smaller the target, the harder to hit.
Yep, we'll send you a picture of that shirt too. Actual IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, wearing this around, hunting and killing children and pregnant women. Sounds pretty bad, right? Does this sound like our greatest ally that's getting billions and billions of dollars of U.S. taxpayer aid a year?
$83 billion this last year.
Yeah, they have a higher standard of living per capita than we do, by the way.
And we're sending them foreign aid, $83 billion.
And they're using it to commit genocide against their natives in the modern day.
We still commit genocide against them.
But we're not shooting them in the stomach on purpose and shooting little kids. I mean, if we are, that's bad, and I need to know about it. I'm talking about what's going on right now with U.S. taxpayer dollars.
Well, how do you feel about Standing Rock? Because that was big for the U.S.
What's Standing Rock?
taxpayer
I don't know.
dollars.
I don't know.
You don't know what Standing Rock is?
Is that like a cavalry battle?
I mean, it might. Oh,
Is that?
2016, Standing Rock, North Dakota.
Oh yeah, the
I don't know about
where
this.
all the
I'd
where
like
they
to
went
know
to
about
the
No DAPL.
right. They were protesting the pipeline and then they left all that
They don't cover
garbage.
any of the stuff
Yeah.
in the Jewish-controlled news.
They also don't cover it in mainstream media, but it
Which
did
is
hit
Jewish controlled.
briefly. But it did hit briefly because they had to. Because
I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
it was probably one of the biggest events in the last year, so you might want to look into it as long as
Don't you you'll remember it once you look at it because it was in the news.
Well,
Standing Rock. You remember when
Standing
everybody
Rock,
was protesting that pipeline?
Can you guys remind me that?
Yeah.
The access pipeline.
Yes.
Yes, I heard about this. Yeah.
Dakota Access Pipeline,
Yeah.
and they weren't protesting. It depends on who you talk to.
Well, I mean that's what they say.
Well,
I'm just
that's
using
what
what
the
they
media
say.
said. Yeah.
Occupying unceded treaty lands.
Okay, so it was sovereign land of the natives, and they decided to build a pipeline through it.
After Bismarck denied that it goes to the city of Bismarck because they were afraid it would poison their water.
So they rerouted it through native land.
Yes, and they said no.
Well, I'd like to read your people's perspective on this because all I saw was the mainstream line Jews media perspective. Yeah.
Well, that's nice, but they did actually have it on mainstream media, so you would have seen it.
I was
Well, we
still,
would have seen it through their.
I was working at.
I mean, you
their-
know how
through
they
their
how they
perspective,
manipulate
yeah.
it. We would have seen it through their looking glass, obviously. So,
I do know how
You
to
know.
manipulate it because I was there.
right.
Well, the interesting thing here is I was working.
Did you
about
clean up
60
all your
hours a week
garbage?
at a
Or were
startup
you
at the
one of the
time,
people
so
who left
I
all that
didn't watch
garbage?
it.
Actually, there was no garbage. I
What
was there.
were those pictures all
Hold on,
false
hey,
of
don't.
all the-
I'm going to read
Sorry,
the sources she
sorry.
responds to my stuff with. And if recently someone sent me a thing on the Newport Cigarette Company purposely addicting young black children in the 1950s and 60s to Newport cigarettes. I'm going to repost that data. So if she sends me data like that and I vet it, I'll use the data if it's useful. So let me look at it before we start. I don't know what she's
Right.
talking
Well,
about.
we're just looking for truth, and that's the whole thing. Is that we want truth,
Well,
and
it
we
is the truth.
right. Well, I mean,
I
if
don't
you
know
show
what
us,
garbage
we'll
you're
believe
referring
you.
to,
I believe-
other than the garbage that they trucked in and dumped in front of my eyes. But
Oh, did they? They brought that garbage in and dumped it on the ground.
I believe in the autonomy of
Holy
all
shit!
people.
I didn't even know
video
that.
was okay.
Well, just a
Sorry.
Sorry, I'm doing my thing.
Yeah.
So I'm running and I'm not trying to. So I believe in the right of autonomy of all peoples to control the destinies of their own people. That would include the native peoples of this country. Now, like you said, keyword treaty, that's when peoples come to agreements and stuff, and agreements need to be honored. And I know Israel hasn't kept any of their agreements about leaving native occupied land in Palestine. They've still got their settlements in the West Bank. They still occupy illegally the native people of Syria's Golan Heights. Jared Kushner, speaking of mineral concerns and oil pipelines, has, you know, the son-in-law of President Trump, he's married to Ivanka Kushner. Do you know he has a huge stake in a oil drilling operation in
Yes,
Golan
actually,
Heights?
Trump himself is invested in Dakota Access. Why everybody knew it would go through after the office changed in January.
I didn't know that, but I know about Kushner being invested in stolen land over in Palestine. Not Palestine, Syria, my bad, Golan Heights.
We're standing on stolen land.
Well, I'd be interested in hearing your perspective. As I said, I was ignorant on the issue. All I had seen was briefly in the news something about this when I was working 60 hours a week at my startup at the time. So I'm interested to hear more. And I believe in the right of autonomy of all peoples. I do not think that the state of Israel or the Jewish occupational governments of the West should be allowed to dictate to all the different natives peoples of the world, including Europe, what
all
their
people,
policy.
including Jews.
They control all of our governments. Why should we be worried about whether or not they're getting enough control?
What about Jews that don't participate? You can't
When the United States was,
generalize an entire people.
when the United States, so I was in the Marine Corps, and my father was in Vietnam. So let's go to a little bit more clear-cut example. Let's go to Japan, the war with Japan. So Japan and the United States got into a war after a bombing, right? Could every single Marine on the beaches of Iwo Jima call for a ceasefire and approach the man who was looking down the rifle at him from the forest next to the beach and ask him, hey, do you believe in the political stances of the emperor or the current activities of your people on the whole? Okay, you do? Okay, let me get back to my fighting position and I'll return fire. It's called ethnic conflict, and Jews are openly anti-Palestinian, anti-Assyrian Christian, anti-Lebanese, anti-Armenian, and anti-white. Got a little statistic for you that might blow your mind. So the majority of Jews, when asked, do you support affirmative action, say, yes. Okay, that's fine. Do you know what makes the percentage of Jews supporting affirmative action jump 10% if you rephrase it? What way? If you rephrase it to say, do you support affirmative action if it hurts whites? The percentage jumps 10%. Specifically those words. I can also send you this study as well. That's malicious. They also deny the existence of the Palestinian people. So if I were to stand here today and have the psychopathic level of audacity that the Jews have regarding the natives of Palestine and say there's no such thing as Native Americans or tribal people, what would you say to that if I denied your very existence?
I would say my existence is dependent on.
Exactly. And the existence of the people of Palestine is also not dependent on whether or not the Jews say they exist. And Jews say there's no such thing as Palestine, there's no such thing as Palestinian. They call them fakistinians because they deny their existence. If you don't believe me, I can show you clips. They literally say that they don't exist as a people, that they just are nomads that came through trying to take Jewish land. I swear, I'm not lying. So I understand what it's like in a related. My solution is to remove Jews from this country. I believe in the expulsion of the Jews from the United States and Europe and every other country where they're trying to control the government. I think if they're so obsessed with Israel and sending all of our money to Israel, I think they should go there.
If the government is so corrupt, and you say that somebody before you who said all the same things was found dead, why aren't you worried about yourself?
Well, I'm Christian, and let me ask you this: if I died, would I know it? So let's say you don't believe in God. Don't tell me whether or not you believe in God unless you want to. But let's just assume there's a person there, and they say they don't believe in God, right? So no afterlife, right? If they died, would they know it? If there's no afterlife, how would they know they're dead? They would.
Just saying you're okay with being dead, so it's about it.
If there's no afterlife and I die, I won't know it. And if I'm right in my Christian beliefs and I die, I get to be at the right hand of God. So it's a win-win for me. Either feel no pain or feel terrific. So that's how I deal with it. But right now I'm doing what I believe to be a moral imperative, and if you give me the right information on your issue, well, I tend to follow my moral compass, and I have a pretty bleeding heart, as I do for the ethnic and religious minorities in the Middle East and their suffering at the hands of Israeli-sponsored terrorist forces. So send me some information, have it swing my compass. Thank you for giving some very good aesthetics to my stream. I hope that a lot of males tuned in, and I was wondering, before I moved on, if there was anything else you had for me.
I think that's it.
Okay, do you care to share your name, or you don't have to?
I'm Sarah Long.
Sarah Longtree, Patrick Little, nice to meet you. Thanks for giving me home of your time on this beautiful day.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you very much.
All right, so we spoke to a constituent that I haven't had contact with yet, and that would be Native Americans or Native peoples or Indigenous peoples, depending on how they want to be referred to. So we're moving on, and let's talk to
What you got, Hartness?
Oh, do we have any questions here?
You guys got...
Yeah, let me just say one thing that you may want to bring up. There are, like the Orthodox, some of the Orthodox religious Jews are actually not that bad.
You guys asked about a mic that was damaged when Antifa jumped me and shit, so we're working on fixing it.
Are you comfortable with him getting with? Do you want to be on camera?
Oh, I thought you were looking at his screen. I didn't know you were filming it reverse style. Whatever.
What are you saying?
I'm already on it.
Well, also, is he comfortable being on our camera?
He's... Yeah.
Well, are you?
I'm...
Okay, yeah, I'm just making sure.
Yeah,
It's
no,
hard
no.
to
You can get me on the camera.
Avoid each other. Two
Anyhow,
cameras.
why don't you guys do some Q&A? Can I get my wallet? I'm parched. I'm gonna get some drink before. I don't want to like go up
My
there with.
truck's right in the thing. I got some water.
No, I got.
It's literally right there.
I want lemonade. I'll be right back.
Okay, cool.
I'll be right back. Do some Q&A in lieu of my present.
The man wants lemonade, dude. So that's on Hard Mouse's show?
Yeah. Yo, dude, what's up? Hold on. Do you think that I should be obfuscating myself and not let anyone see me? I'd be obfuscating. Like, I can't be
This looks like fucking downtown Charlottesville to a T, by the way. It's nutty.
I can't be walking around downtown telling people fucking stuff. I'm not Antifa.
Why not?
I know, but then it would be hard to talk to people because they'd be like, "Who the fuck is this asshole in a skull mask?"
I got no video, bro.
I know, because I turned my camera off.
Don't do that because then my screen sees dark.
Oh, okay.
It's like blank page.
Sorry about that. Sorry about my black face. Well, that was interesting. I was getting ready to, yeah, thank you for that indeed. I was getting ready to engage her and tell her. I mean, she claims that all that garbage at the place was like they brought in a garbage truck and dumped it there just to try and show that these hippies were trashing the place, but I don't know if I believe her.
So that means she's mad at the government and not the white hippies, or what?
Well, yeah, neither do I. But also, I think that didn't recent fossil discovery show that Europeans were actually first here, even before the natives came over from the land bridge up in the northern. Sorry. My video's on.
Yeah, Salutrians. Hypothesis.
Your camera's on. Can you see it? I can't believe you can't see it because I can see my camera.
Solid black. Hang on a second. Let me turn it off.
Yeah, I think it's yours because I got my camera.
Yeah, we're gonna meet up with Nealon soon, maybe in a day or two.
We should go up to Tester's office over there. Tester's office.
It's taken with that yellow Jew. I don't know. I think he just went in here because it's yellow. I'm not sure. Which place did he go in? Oh. Oh, that's right. Probably is red pilling him. Yeah, I'm looking at the chat a little bit. It's okay. Keep your hands up this time, cameraman. I was kind of hit from like behind and the side. And then I was down on the ground for like 15 seconds while they stomped and punched me, so I don't know if that would have helped. Oh, right. Ice cream. Oh boy. Wow. He's not here. Oh shit. Well, that's great. Glad that got pressed. Doxed. Yeah, I've been caught in his sunglasses reflections like 50 times at this point. And that blue-haired Antifa female who was recording us the other night recorded me while I was giving my statement to the police and still woozy, so
I got you however you say it, that tea stuff that helps your intestinal tract.
oh, thank you.
Where'd the other guy go?
Other guy's getting some other water.
Oh, cool. All right. So,
Wow,
let's see.
that's good.
Anyone else wants to talk here? The only thing is they're going to ask for my other kombucha. All right, so let's ask someone here. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Patrick Poole. How are you doing today?
Implicit.
Fine.
What we're talking about, academic admittance fairness.
What are you doing here? Videoing me or what?
Well, not just him. It's
Just-
for his
just-
Okay, what are we talking
Well,
about?
I'm running for office in 2020. Yeah, this is your stream, but he doesn't want to be on camera.
Okay, cool.
All right.
I'm gonna shut my. I'll just show you that I'm gonna shut my.
No, it's fine. I'm just like to know. That's
So, I'm running for office in 2020, and I would like to discuss some facts with you and see how they make trying to get into Harvard, Yale, Stanford, a place like this. Columbia University. All right. Well, you want to talk about fairness in academic admissions anyway?
Okay.
All right. So there's an ethnic group, and they make up 1.7% of this country. And they're out of every 1,000 people, they're only one. There you go. You throw that. Yep. They're only 17 out of every 1,000 people in the country, but there's 670 out of every 1,000 students at the Harvard Graduate School. So they're over 2/3 of the students at Harvard Graduate School, but they're less than 2% of the U.S. population. You want to guess what ethnic group this is?
I have no idea.
Well, just a hint, they are a little bit smarter than your average guy. Although they're only 1.7% of the U.S. population, they're a little over 2% of top-performing high school students. So, the shocking, you'd expect maybe 2.2 or 2.5% of Harvard grad students if they're, a little bit above average, right? But there's 67% of Harvard graduate students. It's an ethnic group. You want to guess which ethnic group this is?
No idea.
All right, let's guess that letter. So you guess the letter that the ethnic group's name starts with, and then I tell you whether it's higher or lower. You're spilling your kombucha.
What?
So, for example, if you wanted to guess Italians, you'd say I. You want to take a guess?
I'm not. I have no idea. No guess.
Okay, well that ethnic.
Who are they?
Well, here's another hint. At the time of the 1920s and the 1930s in the Soviet Union, early Soviet Republic, they made up 85% of the government in terms of the political commissars, or the equivalent of senators and congressmen of the Soviet Union. 1920s, 1930s, 85% of the government in the Soviet Union, although there were 1% of the Soviet Union's population. Want to take a guess? It's the same ethnic group.
Why don't you tell me who it
I'm going
is?
to give you one more hint.
I'm not going to guess. I have no idea who we're talking about.
I'm talking about Jews. Yep, these are true facts. Can you guess where I got these sources from?
No idea.
The Jewish World Encyclopedia, the Jewish Daily Forward, and Haaretz, all Jewish publications. So pretty crazy, right? 1% of the Soviet Union population in the 1920s and 30s, but 85% of the government. You want to know what types of laws they passed in the early Soviet Union under this 85% Jewish government? You want to take guesses?
Go ahead.
They outlawed marriage, made women the property of the state, outlawed Christianity, and executed every single priest in Russia.
Where are we going with this?
Talking about
you
some
don't,
parallels
you
we've
know.
got going on today and what's happening in the United States. And first, I want to teach some patterns from history before we apply these lessons of history to the modern day and our losses of freedoms as Americans that we're suffering today. It's all going to tie in, sir. I'm painting a picture, and every source can be verified. So, they outlawed marriage. They made women public property. 85% of the government was Jewish. So they issued gift certificates for women that were formerly people's wives to new members of the Communist Party. Sexual gift certificates. You can look this up in a documentary called The Sexual Revolution in the USSR. They just leave out the fact that 85% of the government at the time was Jewish. Yes, you join the Communist Party today, you get 10 vouchers, good for any woman of your choice in this village that you're in. So let's say I and my wife were in this village, we were formerly Orthodox Christians, and they came and told us our marriage is annulled and the wife is private property, your wife will report for sex duties, whatever night of the week that the commissars come knock on the door. If I disagree, I get shot in the head. 85% of the Gulag guards also belong to a certain ethnicity. You know, Gulag death camps in the Soviet Union before World War II? Can you guess what ethnicity that was? They were also Jews, 85% of the Gulag camp guards. They killed 30 million people prior to World War II. Anyhow, the interesting point here is that knock, 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 85% chance it's a Jew at your door. Member of the Communist Party showed up at your door and said, I've been issued a gift certificate to this woman who lives with you who you used to call your wife. This could happen up to 10 times a night. Eventually they had to put restrictions on how many times your former wife could be used as a communist recruitment tool, the Jewish recruit. Do you know what happened to STD rates in the Soviet Union during this time? They
Hang on a second.
soared.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'm at the Big Dipper. Are you coming? Oh, okay. I'll be right there. Okay, bye. Yeah, that's my kid. I gotta go.
Well, if you have any questions about what's happening with laws against being able to be openly Christian in this country in schools, against laws being passed against faith in schools, educations, laws being passed against your private rights as an American to worship as you see fit and to do with your property as you see fit, I ask you to write to me at pat@littlerevolution.us, and I'll show you how what the Jews did in the Soviet Union is almost identical to what they're trying to do here now.
And your website's up, right?
littlerevolution.us.
Got it. Thanks.
Have a good day, sir. Well, we're naming the Jew a little bit on the campaign trail here, and we're going to turn out those votes in 2020. I'm going to win the Democratic primary in Montana.
That's right. That's right.
How are we feeling there on the other end of the
Red
screen?
pill Chad versus blue pill Chad. Good one.
Always swallow the red pills. The red pills are the truth, and the truth shall set you free, unless, of course, you live under a Jewish occupied government, in which case the truth gets you sent to prison eventually, right? Good. How's that kombucha? Kombucha?
Kombucha?
Kombucha, yeah.
Tastes like kombucha.
Yeah, it's good.
Lots of probiotics and bullshit.
So, in order to restore civil rights to the people of this country, including the Native Americans, it's looking like that expulsion of the Jews is going to be necessary. So, let's go talk to some more people here. Oh, let's talk to the couple. Don't put your camera on unless they're okay with it.
Yeah. What party is that?
Democrat.
Democrat job.
Oh, thank you. So, I'm talking about fairness in academic admissions today.
Yeah, we got to get going, else I'd love to.
You want to guess what percentage of Harvard is ethnically Jewish? 67%. Oh, thank you. Oh, I think I said Harvard. I meant to say Harvard Grad School.
Right.
I don't think I was trying to put the tip of the red pill near their mouth.
Right.
And I tossed it right over their shoulder.
We got some pods going.
Oh yeah.
Pods.
Wow. Oh, good afternoon, lady.
Oh, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Well, you're going to be so disappointed. I'm from Washington State.
Oh, I was just in Olympia.
Well, wonderful.
Oh yeah, I'm stopping over here. I'm running nationally. I'm running for president 2020.
Hey, well, good luck to you.
I'd like to stop the Zionist agenda that we've got going on and stop the terrible crimes being committed against the Palestinians and U.S. continent sellers. Are you a supporter of indigenous people's rights in Palestine?
You know, I don't know if I can answer that. So I'm kind of worried about what's going on in America first. So.
Well, you know, if you divide up the amount of money we send to Israel by the number of people that live there, you know how much each of those families is getting a year, and this is money we can use here.
That's what I'm saying. We need to take care of our own.
Well, $30,000 a year per family. How does that sound to you? Sounds like a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
You know, guess who has a higher standard of living? The country we're sending aid to, per capita, they have a higher standard of living, or us? They do. Why are we sending them aid?
They don't need it.
We don't need to be doing that. Now, it's pretty interesting. So, if you're trying to get our tax dollars spent at home, you'd think you'd want America's interest represented in your government, the Congress, the Senate, the presidency, right? Well, that's tough when the largest lobby in the country is for a foreign country. Did you know that?
I did know that. But listen, I got to go.
Oh.
I got family waiting for me, but good luck
Well,
to you,
my
okay?
name's Pat Little. I'm
Pat,
hoping
all
you
right.
get your vote in the Democrat primary in 2020. Don't forget to register to vote for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pat at littlerevolution.us.
Good afternoon, folks. My name's Pat.
Oh,
You got a moment today?
Oh, I don't.
Okay. She's on the phone. Let's turn out the intro. Oh, good afternoon, ma'am. Look at that. You want to hear from the candidate?
About what?
The issues of the day. Well, so I'm running as a Democrat. I've been using America First, so we're using our tax money to help people here. How do you feel about Israeli snipers using U.S.-funded weapons to shoot pregnant Palestinian women in the stomachs in Palestine? So, U.S. tax dollars are being used to shoot pregnant Palestinian women in the womb in Palestine. And they're also intentionally shooting children. And they wear shirts. Would you believe me if I told you that Israeli snipers are wearing shirts that are a picture of a pregnant Palestinian woman with a sniper scope over her stomach? And it says in Hebrew above that picture, left to right, 1 shot, 2 kills. Would you believe me if I told you that? Would you like to see a picture?
No, I'm by the way, I'm Jewish, so.
Oh, do you
Can I see your tattoo, please?
do you support the genocide in Palestine?
I do not support the genocide, but at the same time, I don't think half the shit you're saying, so please move on.
All right, I'll keep on going, but remember,
Thank
slavery
you.
was Jewish controlled. 40% of Jews in this country before the Civil War owned slaves, compared to less than 1% of whites. So, reparations from the Jews to the blacks.
That was a Star of David with a cross beside it too. How about that? Yeah, most likely.
Now remember, Jesus was supposed to be the synagogue of Satan. Judaism became invalid the moment Christ set foot on the earth.
Right.
The New Testament supersedes the Old Testament. If you're not a Christian, that's fine. I'm just saying you cannot have a cross anywhere near a Star of David. It is heresy. You can't call yourself a Christian if you believe in Moloch. No, you can't mamser Christianity. I'm not letting that happen.
Right.
Why do they get so offended when we put stars on them? They put them on themselves. It's like,
Right.
be consistent.
Well, she's against the genocide.
Well, she's against the genocide.
Aren't we all?
for
Not
the
actually.
nation Israel, so I guess that's kind of pretend you're against the genocide so that you don't look bad. Right. I don't know.
Virtue signaling. Lots of virtue signaling going on there.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk to some more people here. Afternoon, folks. Pat Little running for office here. you have some moment to talk about the issues that we're going to be voting on in 2020?
Nope.
Okay, well, enjoy your vacation.
We don't live here anyhow.
Okay, thank you. Knew they were tourists. Said enjoy their vacation before they. Oh, good afternoon, folks. It's Patrick Little, running for office. Are any of you folks willing to speak on the issues of the day we're going to be voting on in 2020?
Not at the moment, just because we're in a bit of a rush. So.
All right, well, enjoy your day.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, lunchtime. What time is it right now?
What time is it, Hard Mouse?
How long have we been streaming?
An hour.
Oh, we have an operational security thing where we don't live stream in large cities for more than 35 minutes. We're going to call it a day for now. But Patrick Little here on the campaign trail, naming the Jew just for you, the American voter. So, we will be coming at you live again in the very near future from an undisclosed location at the moment, to be disclosed at the time of the stream. Remember, only you can stop Jewish supremacism. Have a good day, folks.
Thanks, Pat.
You're welcome. Very welcome.